This thing is perfect for breaking your bad habits. I've tried for far too long to will myself to have good habits. Stay off YouTube, don't watch TV, don't eat those cookies, don't go on Instagram. It's just a never-ending battle. But I think I may have just found the way to break all these bad habits for good pretty easily with a device that's only $39, and it's a game changer. Before we get started, if you're new here, I'm Ryan. I'm a software engineer based in Boston, and on this channel we explore how to live more optimized, happier, and healthier lives. Let's get into the video. To understand why this device is so effective at breaking bad habits, we first need to understand how habits work. And to do this, we're going to consult our boy James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits. James Clear defines a habit using a 4-step system called the habit loop, which consists of these 4 things: the cue, the craving, the response, and the reward. Let's dig into each one. The cue is essentially the trigger, what triggers you to do the habit in the first place. Let's use an example of eating junk food is a bad habit. The cue, the trigger, would be maybe seeing a bag of cookies or some sort of junk food on the counter, and that triggers you to want to eat the cookies. Second thing, the craving, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's what you crave from the habit. The dopamine hit you get from eating those cookies, how the satisfaction you feel after you eat those cookies, that's the craving that you're after. The third part of the habit loop, the response. The response is what you do as a result of the cue and the craving. If the craving is big enough, you'll respond by doing the habit. And if the craving is not big enough, you may respond by not doing the habit. And lastly, the reward, it's the actual dopamine hit that you get from doing the habit. It satisfies the craving. Okay, so now we understand the habit loop, which is essentially how a habit works, the 4-step system that makes up a habit. Now, let's talk about how we can use this knowledge to our advantage to break bad habits. And to do this, we're going to use something called the 4 laws of behavior change for breaking bad habits. The 4 laws are essentially one law for each part of the habit loop. So for breaking a bad habit, these are the laws you want to apply to the habit loop. For the cue, or the trigger, you want to make it invisible. Hide that bag of cookies. Never buy the cookies in the first place. Or if you do have the cookies, just put them somewhere where you'll never see them. Then you'll never be cued or triggered to want to eat the bag of cookies. That's law 1. The cue, make it invisible. Law 2, the craving, make it unattractive. You want to remind yourself of the negative consequences of the habit that you're trying to break. Maybe put a post-it note on the cookies and say, do not eat these, do not eat these, are terrible for you. You're going to constantly remind yourself that this is something that you don't want to be doing. You want to make it as unattractive as possible. Law 3, the response, you want to make it difficult. The cookies are maybe on a really high up shelf where you have to go get a bar stool to stand up on it and pick the cookies out. Maybe you put them in the other room, you have to go downstairs to get them, go upstairs to get them. You want to make it as difficult as possible. You want to add friction so you avoid the habit. And then law 4, the reward, you want to make it unsatisfying. Maybe every time you eat the bag of cookies, you have to do 30 push-ups or put $20 in a jar. Text your friend that you ate cookies, have them hold you accountable. Some sort of system that makes it as unsatisfying for you as possible. Okay, now that we understand the habit loop and the 4 laws of behavior change, let's talk about the device, why it's so effective, and how you can use it to break your bad habits, and how I'm using it to cure my dopamine addiction. This is maybe the moment you've all been waiting for. This is the device. It's a timed lockbox, and how it works is you open it up, put things inside of it, close it, set a duration, and then the items are locked in there for that duration. You can lock the items in there for days, hours, minutes, any amount of time that you don't want those items in your sight or you don't want them accessible. And there's a couple different modes. There's the standard mode, which allows you to unlock the device in emergencies using a code that you can find in the manual. And you want to use this mode if you're locking things that you may need in an emergency, such as your phone. This is the mode that I use. And then there's another mode called Fortress mode. And this is absolutely impossible to get into unless you contact their support and they respond to you within 24 hours and give you a code to unlock it. So maybe if you have cookies in there or cigarettes or nicotine or some bad habit that you're trying to break that you don't need in an emergency, then you can use the Fortress mode. But otherwise, if you're using your phone or something else that you may need in an emergency or may need for some reason, I would suggest using the standard mode. Okay, so that's the device. Now let's talk about why it's so effective. The device itself actually covers 3 of the 4 laws of behavior change that James Clear mentions in Atomic Habits. But with an accountability system in place, all 4 of the laws for breaking bad habits are actually covered with just this device. And it's only $39. Like, this is actually pretty crazy. The device will be linked in the description if you want to check it out. You can pretty much buy any of them on Amazon. This is the one that had the best reviews, so I'll link it in the description, and I really like the one that I bought, so I'll link it below. So for law 1, the trigger, you want to make it invisible. It's in a locked box. It's literally invisible to you. You can put the box out of sight if that's going to make it easy for you. It's already locked away. The TV remote, the cookies, your phone, it's all in this box, and it's put away to the side, and you won't be able to see it. Out of sight, boom. boom, law 1 is taken care of. Law 2, the craving, you want to make it unattractive. The fact that you're going to have to input a code found in the manual to get into the box makes it pretty unattractive. You're making a pre-commitment to yourself that you're not going to touch the stuff for this amount of time, and you know that you're failing if you go to look for that code. So that automatically makes it pretty unattractive. But if that's not unattractive enough for you, maybe you can put a note on top of it that says, do not open this, okay? You're a failure if you open this. Or you can put a note inside, whatever makes it most unattractive for you. And law 3, the response, you want to make it difficult. It's difficult. It's a locked box. You can't get inside of it. If you put it on fortress mode, it's literally impossible to get inside this thing. It doesn't get more difficult than this. This thing is perfect for breaking your bad habits. Those 3 laws are taken care of. Law 4, you want to make it unsatisfying. This is the only law that isn't taken care of by itself with the box, but just adds some sort of accountability system, and it will make this unsatisfying. Every time I unlock the box before the time duration is up, I have to go do 30 push-ups, or I have to give my friend $50, or some sort of accountability system that will make sure it is very unsatisfying. Here's the best thing about this. It's an environmental change, which means it doesn't actually require very much willpower or discipline to break these bad habits. You're just using these laws to your advantage to make it easier for yourself. You're making a pre-commitment by locking these things up when you have motivation, and then when you're craving the habit later, or you maybe want to do it, you can't. You've made this pre-commitment already, and it's much more difficult, much more unsatisfying, and it's not in your sight, so it's just so much easier to break bad habits for good. It's only $39, so it's pretty cool. Okay, so how can you use this thing to break your bad habits and change your life? The first thing I want you to do is figure out the habits that are having the biggest negative impact on your life, and the habits that you're spending the most time on that you don't want to spend any time on. What am I spending my time doing that I don't want to be doing? By answering that question, you're going to find the habits that you probably should stop. These could be things such as watching TV, eating junk food, spending too much time on your phone, smoking, hitting vapes, drinking, could be anything. There's a lot of different things. Okay, now that you've figured out which habits you want to stop, which ones are having the biggest negative impact on your life, you want to set a goal. Where do you want to be at in 1 week? How little do you want to be doing these habits in a week? How little do you want to be doing these habits in a month? Do you want to just completely cold turkey this, see if you can just cut it out of your life entirely immediately, or are you going to do more of a slower schedule? So you want to set your goals and then use those goals to build a schedule that you can adhere to. If you only want to spend 1 hour a day on TikTok, you can lock your phone up for the other hours that you would have been spending on TikTok and do something else with your time. Create a schedule for yourself to put things in the box so you adhere to the goals that you set out for yourself. With some habits, it's possible to cold turkey them, like maybe watching TV or social media addiction. But for other habits, it may be easier to just start small and build up over time. So maybe lock the item up for 1 hour the first day, a couple hours the second day, and then build it up over time. Build up the amount of time that you lock the item away, and you'll slowly be taking it out of your life. The other things I want to mention are figure out some way to track your progress, track how many times you tried to get to the item, how many times you actually unlocked the box, how many times you succeeded, and see if there's an upward trend. See if you're breaking your bad habits. And then be accountable. Tell a friend what you're doing. Tell your family member what you're doing. Make an accountability system for yourself that you can follow. And then lastly, celebrate the wins. If you go 5 days without doing this habit and then you relapse on day 6, you reach for your phone out of the box and you go on TikTok for 5 hours, it's still a win. You still did 5 days of not going on social media or whatever you're trying to do. So make sure you celebrate the wins and not just beat yourself up when you have a setback. Or you can just cold turkey everything on fortress mode like an absolute beast. If that works out for you, then you're a beast, and I wish you the best. I hope you guys can all do that. For whatever habits, you can try that out. It might be a lot harder. I'd recommend maybe trying the other things first. So I've been using this device to cure my dopamine addiction, and it works incredibly well. Every morning when I wake up, I take my phone and the TV remote, I put them in the lockbox, set it to 4 hours, and I do not have the ability to check my phone or watch TV until lunch. Then when lunch comes around, I can take my phone out of the box, check my notifications, look at my texts and my calls for the first time each day, maybe watch some TV while I'm eating my lunch, or I can just put the TV remote right back in the lockbox and lock it up while I'm eating my lunch. I don't want to let myself watch TV during lunch. And then when I'm done with my lunch, I just put my phone and the TV remote right back in the lockbox, and I set it for another 5 hours, and I go back to work and do my focused work. It's literally so nice. I have nothing pulling my attention away from my work and the things I want to focus on, like being more mindful in my day, going for walks without technology, all of these things that I want to be focused on, I am focused on, and I have no distractions. And it gives me no ability to chase these dopamine highs. It's so easy to just click on the TV, go to YouTube and start watching shorts, go on my phone, go on TikTok, or look at my messages, spam check my messages. There's so many ways to get distracted now. So by locking these things away and focusing on my work, I'm so much more productive, so much more focused. I find myself being much more effective. My work quality has increased. I'm slowly curing my dopamine addiction. Hopefully soon, I'll have no desire to watch TV or go on my phone at all. I work from home and I am pretty extreme with this. I lock my stuff up for about 7 to 8 hours every day. And then when it's like 8 p.m. and it's nighttime, and I have no plans and I'm just hanging out, I lock my phone and my TV remote in there and I just enjoy the rest of my night. It forces me to read books and do other things that maybe I wouldn't have otherwise done because I can just watch TV or go on my phone, and that's easy. If you have other habits that you want to do, just increase the friction on the ones that you want to break, and then you can start doing these other ones. If you enjoyed this video, I also made a video here about 4 must-read books to read in the coming year to become unrecognizable, whether that be through building better habits or getting your finances together or whatever else. One of the books I actually go into detail in that video is Atomic Habits, so click here if you want to check that out. Thanks for watching.